Okay. Tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I've been working with. It's a little difficult material. So just, if you have some of these issues, please be aware that some of it could be triggering some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. I wanted to talk about some of the cases of trafficking that I have. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about my specific clients or my specific cases, but I've been working with a lot of human trafficking survivors and women who were subjected to child prostitution through the mob or through other small cult groups or even larger cult groups. Many families got involved in the occult and involved their kids in ritual abuse. Something that we pretend doesn't exist, which I have so many cases of it that it's really hard for me to believe it doesn't. I have to be honest about that. And I've got to tell you, as a therapist, that's a little scary to say, because people have adopted the belief that it's not real. But I've had, over the years, so many cases that have people saying very similar things that it'd be really hard for me to believe that it wasn't real, because not that many people can be saying the same thing for such a long period of time. Sorry, kitty. Kitty cats over here. Say hi. Say hello. Yes. Okay. You're gonna distract us here. I'm not sure what all I want to say about it. I guess as a therapist, I just want to come out with it that I've been working with this a lot, and I've been working at it for a long time. I know what I want to say about it. Something that is coming up as a theme is how much people can't talk about it. Not because of necessarily fear that talking about it is going to get them killed or hurt, which is a possibility I think that people fear, but more because they're afraid that people will think they're just weird or crazy and not believe them, and they feel really isolated and alone. And it always strikes me that people have gone through the worst horrors that you could possibly go through in humanity. It's kind of like being a Nazi Holocaust survivor and not being able to talk about it because people think you're crazy that you admit that you went through something like that. They can't even imagine that it's possible or real. But I have people who are high functioning, who are not psychotic, who are not quote unquote crazy, who are just trauma survivors, who will talk about cases of ritual abuse that they've gone through family groups or through even just being kidnapped. A lot of trafficking cases I've seen are of kids who grew up in their families, and then babysitters were involved in the cult and would kidnap them at night, and unbeknownst to the family. It's hard to believe. It's a hard to believe thing. Got cat hair. But I've heard this over and over, actually. Teachers hurting kids, shocking them with assault, sexual assault, rape, torture, torturing them into silence, and then using them in trafficking and child prostitution while they were lived and housed at home, and the impact that has. And I've had a number of cases like this. I mean, a lot. I think, I started a group recently for survivors who have gone through the unspeakable. Like I said, cat hairs. It's summertime, my cats are shedding. the group is for complex trauma survivors, and in that group I have high functioning trauma survivors who've gone through chronic, severe, extreme cases of abuse throughout their childhood. And a lot of the thing that they talk about is trying to form relationships, trying to feel like they're part of really close friendships, but there's always a secret that they have to hide. And it's not just, that they were incest survivors, or that they were beaten up, or that they were neglected or grew up in poverty, but that they were raised in cults, or kidnapped and used in child prostitution by the mob, or by, a teacher, a mentor, a role model, scout leader who would take them and use them for pornography, right under their parents' noses. It's a really frightening reality. But I hear it over and over and over and over and over again. And they can never tell anybody. They can never tell their friends. They can never tell, they'll tell their really close friends if they know that their close friends are not going to see them as crazy. And usually they don't tell them the full story. They tell them bits and pieces. And I know a lot of times that when you've got a trauma background, even if it's a lesser trauma background, that telling other people is a really big deal, because usually people don't know how to react. They don't know how to respond. They want to give advice. They want to make it go away. They are such in shock themselves from hearing it that they can't handle it. And so I think I just want to give a little bit of a voice to them. I think that's what has really been hitting me. I know that there's cases in law enforcement that are really aware of some of the stuff, the activities that are going on in the trafficking. You hear about human trafficking, you hear it on TV, you hear about it, but you never think you know people who have survived it. And I think if we gave more voice to it and gave room and space for it, that might be really surprised to find out that many people in your life, even in your own life, where you didn't realize it, were trafficked or had gone through some of these experiences. They're not necessarily crazy. They're not necessarily just messed up. Sometimes they have trouble, building careers, or, kind of launching in their lives. But others appear like they've been really successful at it. And so you wouldn't necessarily know. So, like I said, I think the thing that I wanted to talk about it today was just giving voice, and making a space that there's an acknowledgement for people who have gone through this. That even as a therapist in the therapeutic community, the sad thing is that psychiatrists, therapists, I won't believe them. That's another issue. That's another real issue, is that they instantly will think they're crazy. When a lot of these people are not. And they're dismissed, they're over-medicated, they're, said to have serious personality disorders when that may not be the case. It's easier to dismiss than to believe the reality that this is a real thing. I guess I've seen a lot. I used to work with homeless kids, and I heard a lot of stories, and I've seen a lot of things, and I've encountered pimps who are very, very scary people who I knew were doing really horrific things. I worked with a lot of prostitutes and kids who were trafficked, actually, at that time. I've seen a lot from the kids on the streets, but now I'm not dealing with the kids on the streets. I'm dealing with women, professional women, women who our executive directors, doctors, God, marketing assistants, marketing professionals, just, whatever career path, accountants, to, a lot of advocacy work, social work, people in all sorts of positions, all sorts of places in their lives, doing all kinds of things, leading productive lives, being able to, overcome the most horrific of horrific in some ways, and then being trapped in it in others, not being able to speak about it, for them, it locks it inside. I think that's the thing that's so sad, is that they've got to heal from the most horrific, horrible stuff, and yet they have to lock it inside because we can't handle hearing their stories. Or if, as a friend or a therapist or a psychiatrist or a doctor, you hear their stories, you treat it with suspicion and discount it. Nobody could go through that much, and yet we know truth is stranger than fiction. So I think tonight's video blog was just to be acknowledging it, to give voice. I hope that this has been helpful to somebody. It's helpful to, at least for me, to be able to put it out there and get it off of my chest, because it's something that's been really on my mind a lot. Thanks.